Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. So this is the second part about Ibn Sina, the great scientist. So in the last first part, I talked about his medical and other scientific achievements, but he was also a great philosopher. So today I will talk about his philosophical thoughts. So he presented the what you say his theory, Burhanul Siddiqeen, that is proof of the truthful. And he made an argument for the existence of God. Even in those days, there were people who did not believe in the presence of a God. But he said that there must be a necessary existence, which is in Arabic called Wajib al-Wajud. And that existence must be such that it should always be present. It cannot happen that it doesn't exist at any stage. And for further arguments, he he reached the Islamic concept of God, that is Allah. So he advocated that in a very forceful way. Peter Adamson, a famous historian of philosophy, he said that this argument, which was put forward by Avicenna so forcefully, was one of the most influential medieval and Middle Age arguments for God's existence. And he thinks that this is Ibn Sina's biggest contribution to the history of philosophy. Then he presented a floating man thought experiment, which explored the nature of self-awareness and soul. So in that, someone imagines that a person is suddenly appears in midair. That is, there is no earth, and he is just suspended and isolated from all sensory inputs. He cannot hear, he cannot see, and uh, these things. He cannot feel cold or heat. But in spite of that, according to him, his body has the knowledge that he is aware of himself. He knows that he has an existence. So from this, frankly speaking, I myself, this is philosophy, and I could not fully understand this experiment, but people understood it and they accepted it. So he argued that soul is a distinct entity from the body. That is, our soul is different from our body, and our self-awareness does not depend on sensory experience. He also said that our soul is first to come into existence, and then our physical body is formed. So he claimed that the humans cannot doubt their own consciousness, even in a situation that prevents all sensory data input. I mean, he said that a human being, of course, he's thinking all the time. I mean, his brain cannot be free, and he has a consciousness, whatever is the situation, even he is totally isolated. So he thought that this is a proof of the presence of soul. Self-consciousness is soul, according to him. And then he endorsed the law of non-contradiction, which was put forward by Aristotle. And this law says that a fact could not be both true and false at the same time. That is, something has either to be true or it has to be false. It cannot be in between. So he said, Ibn Sina, anyone who denies the law of non-contradiction should be beaten and burned until he admits that to be beaten is not the same as not to be beaten, and to be burned is not the same as not to be burned. So he clarified uh, by this statement. So he books, his philosophy books, most important is Kitab al-Shifa, which is called the Book of Healing in English. And in its subsection Al-Burhan, Ibn Sina discussed the philosophy of science and described an early scientific method of inquiry. And he compared it with Aristotle's posterior analytics and disagreed with on several points. Now, I will tell you the difference. The posterior analytics proposed by Aristotle, it will accept indirect evidence that if A is equal to A has seen B and B has seen C, so it means that A has seen C. So Ibn Sina did not accept it. He said that direct evidence is a must. And of course, that is the base of scientific method of inquiry. So he developed a method of experimentation that by doing experiments only you can reach a scientific conclusion. His another book is Kitab al-Najat, the book of deliverance, and this book is mainly about his flying man argument. A legacy. He was such a famous person, and both East and West, he is regarded as one of the greatest figures in intellectual history. So even Western writers, this George Sarton, who wrote the history of science, described him as one of the greatest thinkers and medical scholars in history, whole history. And he also called him the most famous scientist of Islam and one of the most famous of all races, places, and times. And of course, he was one of the Islamic world's leading writers in the field of medicine. As I told in my in the previous vlog, first part, that his book was taught as his medical book was taught as a textbook for more than 500 years in Europe. So his influence after it was translated, that is Al-Qanun fil Tib, the canon of medicine, after it was translated into Latin, and it was uh, taught there in from early 14th to mid 16th centuries and even beyond. So he was considered equal to Hippocrates and Galen as great uh, personalities. And institutions in many countries have been named after him to honor his scientific accomplishments. This is Ibn Sina Mausoleum and Museum in Hamadan, Iran. This is Bu Sina University in Hamadan, Iran. This is Ibn Sina Research Center Institute in Tehran, Iran. This is Ibn Sina Academy of Medieval Medicine and Sciences, Aligarh, India. And this is Ibn Sina University, Mirpur Khas, Pakistan. And there is a crater on the moon which has been named after him. And there is a special Ibn Sina Prize which is offered by UNESCO and established in 2003. And every 2 years it is awarded to individuals and groups for their achievements in the field of ethics and science. And it has been named after him, Ibn Sina. So such is his authority. Then there are Avicenna directories, which are published from 2008 to 15. And they listed universities and schools where doctors, public health practitioners, pharmacists, and others all were educated. And they explained, the organizers, that the use of Avicenna's name symbolizes the worldwide partnership that is needed for the promotion of health services of good quality. And in June 2009, Iran donated a Persian Scholars Pavilion to the United Nations office in Vienna. It included statues of Ibn Sina, Al-Biruni, Al-Razi, and Omar Khayyam, and they were placed in Vienna International Center. So here, this is Ibn Sina's statue. So here are some of his famous quotes. First is illusion is half sickness. And if you have a wrong concept about something and don't want to investigate it, then you are already half sick. Calmness is half the cure. And if you do not lose your temper and remain calm in adverse circumstances, you have already cured half of your problem. And patience is the first step of healing. And healing doesn't happen overnight. You have to be patient. And his second famous quote is, the human mind draws its strength from the strength of the soul. And this is a force that is not insignificant. That is, it is very important to understand that our mind is governed by our soul. And this relationship is very, very important. So these are different references. So next will be Inshallah Al-Biruni, part 1. So in this series of Scientists of the Golden Age of Islam, I have already covered 10 eminent Arab scientists, and now I am working on eminent Persian scientists. And my other series, now this is how you can reach my YouTube channel, where you can find all my vlogs. So please subscribe and share. These are my addresses. So thank you very much for your attention. Allah Hafiz till the next vlog.